Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Tanisha, also known as Nurse86 over on Twitter. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about microaggressions. There's been a lot of conversation this week around microaggressions, but I don't really feel like we've really given a good explanation of what they are. So today I'm going to be defining microaggressions, giving a few examples, and then I've got 3 of my own personal experiences that I've had with microaggressions. So microaggressions are comments or actions that subtly and often unconsciously or even unintentionally express a prejudicial attitude toward a member of a marginalized group. And it could be a racial minority, it could be against someone of a particular gender or sex or age group, whatever. So, and these are all examples of microaggressions that I have personally heard. Is that your real hair? Oh, you have good hair. What are you mixed with? You're so articulate or well-spoken, or you speak so well. You're the whitest black person I know. You don't act like a normal black person. You're really cute for a dark-skinned girl. You talk so white. Look, see, I'm pretty tan. I'm almost as dark as you. Purse clutching. Being followed around in a store. Oh, and this one's probably one of the most hurtful for me. Oh, are you my nurse? I thought you were the tech. So let's kind of unpack what the assumptions are behind some of these statements and figure out exactly what the person thinks they're doing. So when you ask someone, oh, is that your real hair? Or you're telling them, oh, you have good hair, what are you mixed with? The implication is that because of whatever their race is, you assume that they're going to have a particular texture. And that's disgusting. It's harmful, especially considering the history and the politics behind black hair. So even if you mean well, making comments like that can be very hurtful. You're so articulate, well-spoken, or if you tell someone that they don't sound like a real black person, the implication here is that all black people behave a certain way, we all talk a certain way, and that's harmful because we're not a monolith, we are different people with different experiences, and we have different personalities, and we carry ourselves in different ways. We don't all act the same way. And basically what that tells me when you make a comment like that is that you're expecting a stereotype, and you expect every black person you meet to fit within that stereotype. And that's disgusting. Let's see. You're pretty cute for a dark-skinned girl. So this kind of plays into colorism, and I'm going to be making a video in the future going more into depth on colorism. But basically the implication with this comment is if you are a dark-skinned girl, you can't be beautiful. And for obvious reasons, that is extremely harmful and damaging, and that's not really an appropriate comment ever. And then the last one that I'll unpack just quickly is, oh, are you my nurse? I thought you were the tech. This is something that I have heard numerous times in my profession, and I'm not sure if it's necessarily because of race, but I think that's definitely a factor, or if it's because people look at me and assume that I'm much younger than I am. But the implications are that because I am a black woman, there's no way I could possibly be an RN. And we know that that's not true. There are plenty of black nurses that are in my profession. So I've got 3 personal stories that I am going to share today with some microaggressions that I've experienced. 2 of them were in a workplace setting, and one actually happened at school. So I'm going to start with the one that happened at school first because that's the earliest one that I can remember. So at the time, I was attending a predominantly white institution, a college that had a 2% black student population up in Northern California. And in the majority of my classes, I was the only black student in attendance. So one day I was sitting inside, I want to say it was like the math and science building. They had tables and computers set up for students to study or do homework or whatever in between classes. And I was sitting at one of the tables on my laptop, minding my business, doing my homework. And I noticed that there was another student at the next table over, and she was a white student. And I guess a couple of her friends came into the building and asked her to go and do something. And she had a backpack with her, and she had left her backpack in a chair next to her. But when her friends came over, she got up and was getting ready to leave to go do whatever they were going to do. And she paused, and she looked over at me. She looked down at her backpack. Then she looked back up at me and grabbed her backpack and then walked away. And I was dumbstruck because basically she was implying that I would steal her things. And why would I want to steal her things? I have my own things. I am not that type of person that would just go and steal from another person. So basically the implication with her actions was because of who I am, I would be a criminal and want to steal from her. And I was so hurt. I wanted to confront her, but being a minority in a campus where I'm like outnumbered by the thousands, it just would not have been a good idea. So I let it be. I grabbed all my stuff and I just left. The next incident actually happened at work, and this was probably 6 or 7 years ago. And at the time, I was working as a restaurant server and bartender, and I was one of maybe 3 black women who were working there at the time. Everyone else was white, essentially. So the manager one day, and this is the store, like the general manager of the store. This is not like a shift manager or an assistant manager or anything, but the general manager who is in charge of running the entire store. She stops me and she says to me, "You're not like other black people. Are you sure you're really black?" And I was just so like shocked that I didn't even know how to respond to that. I just stood there stuck on stupid, and I looked at her, and I looked down at my hand, and I looked back at her, and I'm like, I don't even know what that means, but that's weird that you would even say that. And then from that point on, our relationship was very awkward. So again, the implication behind her statement is that because I am a black woman, I'm supposed to behave a particular way. And because my personality is different from whatever sort of stereotype prejudice she's got in her head, I can't possibly be a real black person. Which, don't ever do that. That is disgusting. Now, the last personal story that I'm going to share actually happened at the hospital where I work now. And this was, gosh, maybe 3 years ago? Yes, this is about 3 years ago. So on this particular night, my unit was overstaffed, and there was another unit that was severely understaffed. And typically in the hospital, when that happens, you've got a unit that's got more nurses than they need. They will float those nurses to other units where they need more staff. So I volunteered to get floated that night, and I went to work up on a floor with nurses that I did not know. There were a few nurses that had gone through the nurse residency program at the same time as I did, so I kind of knew them in passing, but these are not people that I would necessarily consider like friends or even associates. I didn't even know their names until that night. So I'm sitting there charting after doing my 10 o'clock med pass, putting in all my assessments and all that, you know, taking care of the charting that nurses have to do. And I hear her come up behind me, and she is a white woman, and she says, "Oh wow, I love your hair. Can I touch it?" And before I could even respond, I feel her hands in my hair. And immediately I just saw red. My face got hot, my ears were burning, and there's just this long, awkward silence. And I feel like the air felt like it got sucked out of the room. And everyone could feel how awkward and uncomfortable it was. So immediately she goes, "Oh my gosh, was that not okay?" And I just told her, no, that was not okay. And I was so upset. I was so humiliated. Sorry, I'm kind of tearing up thinking about it, that I just grabbed up my stuff and told them, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and take my lunch break. And I went back to my home unit so that I could kind of clear my head and cool off, because I was so upset. I didn't even know how to address her at the time. So I went back to my home unit, ate my lunch, and while I was doing that, I pulled up an article that I wanted her to read, and I think it was called something along the lines of 7 reasons why you might want to touch a black woman's hair and 7 reasons why you shouldn't. Because in my state of mind, I knew that there was no way I'd be able to sit down and explain to her exactly how I was feeling and why I was so hurt by her actions. So I took the article back to her and, pulled her to the side and just asked her, "Hey, can you come into the break room with me really quick? I just want to talk to you for a second." And I gave her the article and I told her, I'm still pretty upset about this, but I feel like this article can really explain why I feel the way I do. And I mean, she was very contrite, but she obviously had no clue why what she did was wrong. There was another black nurse, who worked on that floor at the time. And I guess they were close friends, and they had the type of relationship where she allowed this nurse to touch her hair. So she assumed that she could do that with any black woman. And that's not okay. I mean, like I was saying before, there's a lot of history behind our hair as black women. So unless you have express permission, you should never put your hands on anyone, because A, you don't have consent, and B, we are not some sort of exhibit for you to come and pet on. This is not a petting zoo. I am a human being. We're people. So of course she started to cry afterwards, and that was a little frustrating because I felt almost like she wanted me to feel bad for her, and I couldn't really feel bad for her in that moment because I was the aggrieved party, not her. So to me that felt a little selfish, but in the end she did understand why what she did was wrong, and I think she learned from that. So that's all I've got for today on microaggressions. If you guys have any questions or comments, please make sure you leave them down below. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do that. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, I appreciate your support. Love you so much, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.